Hey, this video is going to be dedicated to Bitcoin Cash, and also in the second part of the video, I'm going to communicate why Allodium is in symbiosis with Bitcoin Cash, or at least in the future has that potential. So I just looked at some stat that says I've basically been commenting 15% of the comments in the Bitcoin Cash chat group for the last 3 months, which is a lot of comments. And I've spent a lot of time volunteering to help defend and curate the community. And from my assessment, we're about 90 to 95%, maybe even higher, maybe 95 to 98% through the last attack. So there's been 4 big attacks against Bitcoin in the history of Bitcoin. And there's 4 different chains of Bitcoin as a result. So the first attack is what resulted in the BTC BCH split. The second attack resulted in the BCH BSV split. And the third attack resulted in the BCH eCash split. And each one of these splits is a divide and conquer attack, which undermines the network effect of Bitcoin in its ability to maintain its core function as a currency, which will benefit all of its users, not just in the utility, but in the appreciation and the value of the currency due to its mathematically limited supply. So if there had not been those 3 attacks which split the community, then at this point Bitcoin Cash would be probably the entire crypto market times multiples, likely, and the world might not be on the verge of a world war right now, because Bitcoin Cash would have already outcompeted the ruble and the dollar. But we're in a situation where the best solution has been stifled, and therefore we're dealing with secondary, suboptimal solutions, and gambling the fate of the world on this suboptimal ruble versus dollar competition. And the yuan will enter into it, and the Chinese risk getting completely nuked by the games that they're playing. And none of this needed to happen if if the original Bitcoin was just allowed to thrive. But the good news is, attack number 4, we won. We finally won, okay? So we lost 3 times, and we just won. The community did not split. There was no fork. It was just a localized exchange failure and a marginal sidechain failure. Bitcoin Cash is still Bitcoin Cash. There's been no fork. The community hasn't forked. The whole agenda was to steal a good portion of the community's money and then turn the community against the whale, divide and conquer, end up with 2 different BCHs, 1 EVM, 1 proof of work, and they failed. We won, okay? This is what winning looks like. You may not recognize it because you've never seen it before, but we won. Simultaneously, the price is right near its all-time low. We're within like 30% of the all-time low, which is like in the 70s of US dollars. And in that amount of time, the US dollar has deflated by so much since it actually hit that low that we're basically at a low. So the price is at the all-time low, essentially, and we just had our first win. So that's why I'm making this video, is just to point that out. The uncertainty lies in the fact that the enemy has been building up their own stash of Bitcoin Cash, because if they don't have any Bitcoin Cash, they lose all leverage, just like the way that they manipulate the precious metals market. They have to have some precious metals in order to do that. So by my estimates, the enemy has, I don't actually know, I would estimate 1 million Bitcoin Cash, maybe as many as 2 million, but I would say 1 million. But it's best not to underestimate your enemy. So maybe the enemy has 2 million, and we have 8 times that much. Yet we don't have the unity, the organizational and ideological unity that the enemy has. We're united around this idea, and yet we all have different perspectives of where we stand and where the idea stands in its overall evolution. So there's no better time to invest in this revolutionary utility of peer-to-peer cash and the mathematics behind it and the technology behind it and the empowerment that it brings those who use it. There's no better time. Yet, while I'm personally basically all in as far as I can responsibly be with my liquid capital, I could sell my silver, and maybe I will at some point. But the reason that I haven't liquidated all my precious metals is the same reason that the enemy holds 1 million or so Bitcoin Cash. Because as soon as we go all in, we lose our leverage. The enemy doesn't want us to gain in value, and therefore it will do what it can to try to bankrupt us. So we have to play the game to a certain extent to maintain our own leverage. But we already have everything that we need to succeed. I am aware that many people in the community have diversified portfolios of other cryptocurrencies and stocks and assets. And if we think about the percentages of where we put our values, if we really valued, and I'm not externalizing, this is for me too, because I'm in the same position where I probably only have I think a baseline of like a third in metals, a third in crypto, just Bitcoin Cash, and a third in cash, the prevailing currency, is a fair baseline. Relative to that baseline, I have much less than a third cash, and I have more than a third metals. And I'm somewhere around a third in crypto, but that's just me. But just having that as kind of a baseline ensures some degree of optionality and leverage in various situations. But in times like now, when we just had our first big victory and we're at the lows, it certainly makes sense to get overweight into Bitcoin Cash. Even though the enemy will do what it can to continue to attack and subvert and drive the price down, because of the nature of Bitcoin Cash, that we're not dominated by futures markets and whatnot. The spot market will ultimately prevail. And so the longer we stay at these prices, assuming there's ongoing demand that the people in the community are continuing to appreciate in their Bitcoin Cash position at a rate greater than inflation, then we're in a winning position right now. And the enemy can't sell into the current position because they'll give up their hand and we'll buy it super duper cheap, and then they'll have no more ability to leverage other than some other kind of draconian attack on the technology or the internet or the governmental level. But that just undermines them in the long run, because they can't ultimately destroy it. So everything they try to do ends up backfiring. There's always blowback, and we come back more resilient. So that's the narrative I have for Bitcoin Cash. The last Just Bitcoin Cash video I made was in the midst of the whole CoinFlex thing. I really don't want to get into ego, because that always is not unifying, because it's only relative to an individual. But I am pleased with the role I was able to play in relation to that, and how people's negative reaction to the truth was directed towards me in relation to that the CoinFlex attack, and it wasn't related, and it wasn't directed at maybe the way the Roger Ver or the other people in the community, because it's okay. I can take a bit of anger and aggression and externalized frustration, and we can see the outcome. It's not about me. It's that the community didn't split, and that not only that, but we're now on track, on the best potential evolutionary track for Bitcoin Cash. So the enemy's floundering. They're saying, what can we do next to attack? Who cares? That's all they're going to do. They've got nothing new. They just did their best thing and they failed. They've got all this power, resources, organization, coordination, and they got beat. They'll try again. They'll get beat again. And meanwhile, they're getting beat in other theaters that are much more consequential than Bitcoin Cash. And as they're facing ultimate nuclear demise, they kind of have to capitulate and realize that Bitcoin Cash is really their best option. So they'll get on board, but they won't get on board at $100 per Bitcoin Cash. They being, well, then we probably did get a lot of Bitcoin Cash at this price, and they're probably getting as much as they can at this price, just like the people in the community are. So how is that not a negative? I can't explain it right now, but the reality is the system will have to adopt Bitcoin Cash because its system fails. And when the central enemy is accumulating Bitcoin Cash, but all of its subsidiaries, they'll try to pivot to the enemy will try to pivot to Bitcoin Core and make that work, but it's just not a good solution. So we'll see them play their hand, and we'll continue to develop the ideal solution, and we'll grow slowly and steadily because of the downward pressure and the grassroots demand. And that's the best possible outcome. In all reality, it's the balance of all the forces. So it's a time for optimism and celebration and a positive outlook. Even though there will be more attacks and the enemy won't just give up, it's we got to have some optimism here, right? So now I'll give you a reason for optimism. in relation to Allodium and how it will benefit Bitcoin Cash. So one of the issues of why we're not spreading adoption super fast is because of these divide and conquer attacks, which have caused the price to decline over time, which has made it less attractive for people to just hold Bitcoin Cash, and therefore they look for these other yielding assets, and then that deflates the demand for Bitcoin Cash. Whereas if it was steadily increasing in price over the long term, then people would just put their value there and not worry about all these other financial instruments, which are much less secure. I lost my train of thought. The tractor went by, and it was like a wave of consciousness that diverted my train of thought. So Allodium, as far as adoption, how it's going to benefit Bitcoin Cash. So the most basic way of inflation for Allodium of token generation is that every member generates one token every day. So this is a great incentive. And the idea is that Allodium's currency is going to get onboarded onto Bitcoin Cash as a token. So it'll be layer 1 on-chain, as secure as your Bitcoin Cash. You'll be able to have your Allodium appreciation tokens. And everyone who onboards into Allodium will also be onboarding onto Bitcoin Cash. And everyone who onboards onto Allodium will generate one token every day. And because they have this abundant supply of Allodium appreciation tokens at no cost to them, all they have to do is onboard, and then they have this steady supply of every single day they'll get an Allodium appreciation token. And as those Allodium appreciation tokens accumulate, they'll want to spend those appreciation tokens and convert them to things with value. And because it's free to join, they're going to want to tell all their friends, look, you can download this app and sign up here and you get one token a day. And then when all these people have their tokens appreciating in their wallet and then they want to spend them, they're going to go to their local merchant and they're going to say, will you accept this token? You can instantly convert it to money. It's just as good as money. It's more secure than your local fiat currency. It's secured by this global blockchain of the Bitcoin network, and you can instantly convert it into any form of currency money that you want. This bug just landed on me, and it was just such a shiny, green, beautiful bug. Anyways, then it'll just be a groundswell from the bottom up of the people will demand the merchants accept the currency because they have the currency to spend, because it's just abundantly being created in their wallet. And the merchants will want to accept that currency because there's a greater population of people who have it. And they can instantly convert it to whatever kind of currency they want. So currently in my locality, there's not really an incentive for people to adopt Bitcoin Cash, to be honest. They've got all these Cash App, Venmo things, like between those two things, like restaurants or auto body shops, they've already got their little QR code stand for Venmo or Cash App, and it's pretty much frictionless and easy and digital of their US dollar. So there's not really, I've talked to some and they're just not really interested in crypto. They don't understand it, and it seems like risky, complicated, and there's just not the incentive. But once I can onboard Allodium onto Bitcoin Cash, and everyone who adopts it has their appreciation token generating, then it creates the onboarding demand at the most basic level, and then when everyone's onboarded, they themselves will demand the merchants accept it, and the merchants will want to accept it to get extra business from the people who are otherwise broke in this deflating, depressionary economy. But they have this abundant supply of appreciation tokens, which is on the Bitcoin Cash network. So that's the symbiotic solution between Allodium and Bitcoin Cash, and how Allodium will help with user adoption and merchant adoption and just overall adoption for Bitcoin Cash when that ability is there, which seems to be on track for next May. And that's why I've had the Allodium Reserve invest in Bitcoin Cash for this future potential. And in all reality, the enemy is there and they might try to subvert it, but I think they're coming around to seeing that their best potential is also to form a symbiotic relation, because they're not even the top predator anymore. They've gotten out competed, and so I think they'll choose the symbiotic route for their own best interest, which is why anyone chooses the symbiotic route. The only ones who don't are the predators, who think that they have more interest in being predatory. But when they face collective, which they can't outcompete, then they figure out a symbiotic relation with that collective. So the weekly updates, the proof of work that I publish on the YouTube channel, it just seems like I'm just building this off-grid location, like a home almost. But this foundation is the capital, is the physical jurisdiction, which creates the sovereign state country, and allows the integration of the nation of the sovereigns of Allodium. And so it's all connected, and that's why I'm basically on call 16 hours a day, some 18 hours a day in this Bitcoin Cash chat. Why 15% of the messages are just me basically trying to cultivate the community, fight off the attack vectors, and whether or not you agree, I think that it's had a big part in defeating this CoinFlex attack, and my intent is just to find the symbiotic solution for my own best interests and for the best interests of all parties involved. That's my intent. If Bitcoin Cash completely failed, I would have to just focus on Allodium and the locality, but having the potential of Bitcoin Cash thriving as well as Allodium makes that impact global as opposed to local. And that's why I'm investing so much time and effort into it. And hopefully other people in the community appreciate that and can see that for what it is. And maybe this can help to understand the symbiotic potential of Allodium with Bitcoin Cash. And that the ideal vision, from my perspective, is a culture of empowered sovereign individuals that is the global culture of this planet, that we transcend past the state of oppression and colonization and financial debt servitude, and we're able to realize a culture that can realize the fruits of its own labor, that we're not just extracted financially by these financial parasites, and we're able to create a globally thriving symbiotic culture. So that's the big picture, and I think it's realistic. I think we're on track for that, actually. And we just had our first win. It can be hard to recognize what that looks like, but when we kind of get in the mode, the mentality of realizing what winning is, what it looks like, that it's feasible, that it's possible, and not only are we winning, but we are on track to have complete victory, then that can be encouraging. And the realization of that potential is more powerful than the fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt that is constantly pervaded by the deriders in the world who profit off their incessant derision. Whereas the integrators of the world are able to transcend such petty squabbles. So, I'll leave it there. It's a message of hopefully encouragement and positivity. Have a good day.